error occurred on Facebook. We'll try that again, but we'll just go with it.
Okay.
Hey, guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of the Constructive Liberty Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Amy Dingman from A Farmish Kind of Life, and we will be serving up some hard-hitting truths with a spoonful of sugar to help it go down.
That's what I do.
We're talking about the balance, is such a thing, between being smart and being brave. Now, Amy, a lot of people that I'm connected with know who you are, but maybe a lot of my listeners don't know who Amy Dingman is. So why don't you give us a little introduction to who is Amy?
Who is Amy? Amy is a podcaster and an author and a YouTuber, and I have the website afarmishkindoflife.com where I talk about homesteading and lifestyle design and all of that. I live in central Minnesota on 5 acres on a little farm with my family. We have chickens and ducks and pigs and all the good things. So living life out here and doing all the things.
Wow. Is that all you do? Only a podcast and a YouTube channel okay. That's a lot.
So I try to keep busy.
We're talking about balance between being brave and being smart. And I don't know, some people say like you shouldn't, balance in life is way overrated. If you're going to go in on something, don't be balanced in the thing. Go all in on the thing. Like just do it. Yeah. So to you, what do you mean by balance when we're talking about being smart and being brave? Like what is balance to you? And then we'll dive into the smart and brave stuff.
I think part of it is just understanding that when you jump into something new, when you're going to take something new on, whether that is starting a business, starting a podcast, moving across the country, deciding to homeschool your kids, wanting to go back to school, wanting to go back into the workforce, whatever it is, I think balance in this sense means understanding that we have to be brave to do those things, but we also have to be smart. And I think sometimes we're more brave and sometimes we're more smart, but we have to understand that both are part of that equation. So yeah.
I can definitely see how starting something new, you want to walk a fine line to make sure you get things done right. I think too many times some people will just jump in without thinking anything's through, and the other people are going to go and just think things through, and they're like their aim, will never get things done.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you're going with the brave versus smart thing? And how would you define, a deeper explanation of being brave at something as being smart?
Well, I think it depends. If you are looking at something, let's say you're on a trajectory with your life, you're doing the thing. And when
doing the thing,
there is something that you decide you want to do differently, right? And you're going to veer off of what that trajectory is. I think it's understanding, like you said, there are some people who will think, and they want to be smart and they want to, we call it an analysis paralysis, like you're just because you want to make the right decision and you don't want to screw up and you don't want to make a big mistake. Oh my gosh, can't talk. Mistake. Thank you. More coffee.
You haven't been seeing snakes lately, have you?
I haven't. No, I don't even know if the snakes are out here yet in Minnesota. Oh my gosh.
I was wondering like where that popped in at.
No, Snake. I feel like we just got done with winter here and, immediately went into summer, but
right.
And then there are the people who you will hear them say, just do it. Just do it. Like they're like standing on the cliff, looking at the thing that they want to do. And it's like, just do it. Like you feel like you're just coming up and giving a big shove, but if you're super brave and you don't plan anything, that can be a disaster, right? And if you're super smart, but you're never brave and you never take that step, that also can be a disaster. So it's hard.
It's kind of funny you said bring out the just do it thing. My dad, years ago, he had a guy working for him, and the guy called him Nike because he always told him, just do it. The guy that worked for him was somebody who would take 4 hours to think something through when the thing would take him 30 minutes to do it if he would just do it. But he's trying to find an easier way.
Yes.
And Dad's like, just do it. Now, sometimes that can come back to bite my dad because he decides I want sheep. So he goes and buys all the sheep. And pretty soon he has no pasture left because he bought all the sheep. And then he's like, I hate sheep. So he sold the sheep. So I can see exactly where you're going with that balance there between the the smart and the brave, or the just jumping in with both feet without thinking it through. I'm probably on the side of I tend to think things through too much. Where I know on your podcast we had a conversation about kind of the personality thing.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in on the smart versus brave, and how do you try to balance the other side of that with yourself?
It's interesting because I would say that I have always been, I want to think it through. I want to do the plan. That's probably because you and I have similar personalities. So I totally get where you're going with that. And as I've gotten older, I need to be more brave. I need to be willing to take that step and go, okay, let's just do it. Even though I think maybe saying to someone like you and I, just do it, that's not inspiring. That's actually overwhelming and a little bit like, what? Come on now, that's not going to work. But I think it's interesting because I would say sometimes, and I don't know if your wife is like this, I would say that my husband and I'm very, very smart. I want to plan it out, and he's just like, come on, just, he kind of is like, come on, if you want to do that, okay, do it. Like you don't have to overthink this or overanalyze it. Just come on. So I think it's good to have people in your life who can balance that. I think that that's helpful in balancing the brave and the smart.
It's interesting how when you look at married couples, they often are the polar opposites. Just a little story here. This might have been about 2 years ago by now. We got this great big blue, I don't know, call it a mini pond. It's like 12 feet across and about 3 feet deep. And it's just sitting out there next to my wife's garden. And one day she's like, I really want to put this thing in and have a pond in my garden. And so I said, okay, well, let's go do that. Let's grab our little backhoe and we'll go start digging. And I think I took one scoop out and I'm like, I don't know if this is the best place to put this thing. I said, let's think this thing through. I don't want to make a mistake and have this be hard to take up when we want to move it.
Right.
So I tried to put the dirt back in the hole. I think there's still a hole there. And put the backhoe away, and we still have not done anything with the pond. Apparently we're still thinking it through, and she still holds that against me, I'm sure. But it's kind of interesting when you look at couples, how they are the opposite.
Oh yeah. That's probably by design, and that's okay.
It is. I like to look at it as a I'm big on the DISC model of human behavior. It's a coaching thing, but they call it a model because when all the parts fit together, it creates a complete model the way they put it together. And so when you have couples that are the opposite, then it makes a whole, it makes a complete thing. And so it's really interesting how that is.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. What would you say is wrong with the advice of just doing it? I mean, it seems to be good advice, especially to the person who never does it. Where can you go wrong with that?
I think it's inspiring to some people. I think some people just need that push, like, okay, like it's almost like they need permission. Like, okay, I can do this. I think some people are waiting for that permission. I have this idea. I have this thing that I want to do. I just need someone to say, it's okay. Okay, go do it, But I think for other people, it's overwhelming and it's not helpful. I think if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to think of something, like this path I want to go down, instead of someone telling me, just do it, I want to have a conversation before that's helping me work out the details and think through all the options. And so that's kind of how I go into it. But it's good to have people in your life who will give you that little, maybe not shove you right off the edge of, but maybe just push you a little bit on your shoulder. Like, come on, you can do this. You have permission. I have faith in you. I have, sometimes that's what just do it is. It's, I believe in you. I have faith in you. You can do this. And sometimes it's good to think about it from that perspective. Probably it's not always people trying to shove you off the cliff and just do it. Just, everything will be great. It's them saying, you can do this. I believe that you can do this. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times the analogy of being shoved off a cliff to just do it. Do you have a little story like that keeps coming up for you? Is there something specific that comes to mind when you think of that?
I don't know. There's been so many different things that, that I've veered off the path from, in my life, deciding we're going to move from town. We're going to buy a farm. We're going to live in the country. That was a complete 180 from what we were doing. Deciding we were going to homeschool our kids, that was a complete 180 from what the plan was. And so I guess, I don't know. I get that.
Stick to the plan.
I know. The plan. But I don't know. I think part of being brave, I mean, if you want to separate out, being brave and being smart, I think some of the things that I think of when being brave is when you have the idea, when you have the thing you want to do, you have to own that idea and you have to take the first step. And you have to know where that, and the reason that I think about like you're getting pushed off a cliff is I've just always felt when I come to those times in my life, you're kind of standing at the edge and you have a decision to make. You either go backwards to what you were doing or you have to jump or you have to get across, if you're talking about, like some ravine or anything, you actually have to jump, and that can be scary, but you have to do it because nothing changes until you do it.
Right.
And just understanding that, you can take forever to make that decision, but nothing's going to happen until you make that decision. And I think the amount of bravery that takes relates to how far off the path you are veering. If you're just going a little bit, you're like, okay, I can do this. If you're, I'm going to move across the country away from my family and that's a totally different thing. So
yeah, definitely want to think that one through.
Yes, definitely.
And talking about standing at the edge of a cliff, everybody's going to have a different reaction to that.
Yeah.
One person is going to stand there and think when he jumps, this is going to be the greatest feeling ever.
That's true.
And the next person is thinking he's going to die.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I heard an analogy given recently of a couple of people who were about to go up on stage to give a speech. And the one person was asked, how do you feel when you go up there? They said, well, I get jitters, I get butterflies in my stomach and I start to shake. It's like, I feel like I'm going to die. And the other person, when they were asked how they feel, they're like, well, I get jitters, I get butterflies in my stomach and I start to shake. And that's how I know it's going to be awesome. So it's just a little bit of shift in perspective.
Yeah.
You have all the same feelings, but it's the perspective or what you're looking to get out of it, I think, or how what you believe about the situation. I don't know if that made sense or not.
That's a really good point. You're right. And that anybody in any situation, you put two people in the same situation and they're going to react completely differently. And that has so much to do with where you're coming from and who you are and the situation you're in. And
Yes. Yep. Call out a couple comments in the chat. Aaron from Two Chicks Homestead said, finding the balance in helping someone and feeling like you're minimizing their worry is hard. Margot said, it's very hard to get someone who's scared to jump to just be brave. And that's, when you're the half of the couple who likes to be brave, I can imagine how difficult that is when you just can't get the person to budge. I'm the ones that won't budge half the time.
Me too.
Letty said it's so damn tough to help people through the analysis paralysis phase. It's hard to get yourself through it too sometimes.
That is true.
And then public speaking, so difficult. But sometimes you just have to get through the uncomfortable feeling and do it. I read something the other day, I forget who it was, that said most people say they would rather die than speak in public, which means that they would rather be in the casket rather than giving the eulogy.
Oh,
when you look at it that way, it's like, well, maybe not. I think I'll give the eulogy.
I think I'll give the eulogy.
Yep. So what are some tips for somebody who struggles with being brave? Do you have any little secret that you can give for somebody to just go do it and jump off the cliff?
I think you
just might fly.
Yeah. I think most of the tips that I have are really just realizations that you have to keep up here. I would say one of the things is it's okay to make a mistake. And I know you just talked about this in your last episode, mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. When you are starting something new, why is it that we assume that we're going to do it perfectly? Why is it that we assume that we have any idea what we're doing? That is so strange that humans do that. And I think that, when we moved to the farm, my husband didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't grow up on a farm. We learned everything as we went. YouTube University was our friend, right? But I think it was so cool that my kids grew up with that. They grew up with parents who openly admitted, We have no idea what we're doing. I don't know how to butcher a chicken. I don't know how to do this. I have to look it up. I have to learn. And oh, look, I cut the wrong place and now we have a huge mess. Like my kids grew up with understanding that was normal. Like mom and dad didn't know everything, right? Because how many of us know everything? You know, adults like to act like they know everything. So my kids grew up seeing those mistakes and seeing how it was that we dealt with that. And that's good for kids to grow up with, but I wish that was more common for adults, you know, to like, that's just normal because we all make mistakes. That's part of growing and that's part of progressing. So I wish that was just more common for people to talk about because it would help us be brave. Right.
Yeah, it would. And I think it would, like you said, benefit the next generation a lot too, if adults would admit they just don't know what the heck they're doing sometimes.
Right.
Because
right.
like your process of learning that and openly admitting that to your kids, this is kind of a rabbit trail here, but your process of that taught your kids how to learn, taught them that it's okay to not know everything, but it's not okay to realize you don't know it and you need to know it and have the ability to go learn it, but just sit there on your hands when you could easily go learn it.
YouTube University.
Exactly. I'm a full 100% believer that if you're ignorant about something that you want to know about in today's world, it's a choice that you're making.
I agree.
If you don't know it, it's as simple as pushing a button on your phone and saying, "Hey Google, how whatever," and you'll have 1,000 articles about it. It's that easy. So a little bit of a rabbit trail there.
No, that makes sense. I think another thing is kind of going on the mistake thing. I think being brave to not shut down at the thought that somebody is going to say, "I told you so," if it doesn't work out. Or if you try something and it's not what you thought it was going to be, or if you try something and you have to pivot, there are going to be people in your life that say, "Told you that wasn't going to work. Told you so." And I don't know why that phrase is so crushing to people. But I mean, it is, you know, like it's like, oh, you don't want to be told that. You don't want people to like know more than you or whatever. But we can't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
You know,
why is it that so often we're so afraid of what people think, and even people that we don't necessarily even like,
right?
Like, why do I care what you think?
Or people who have absolutely no bearing on our life, right? You know, like, why do I care? Yes. I don't know. Stupid human tricks. That's what it is. I don't know.
I'm trying to develop the mindset that to allow people's criticism, you know, they can say what they want to say and just accept it at face value or whatever. But if they have nothing constructive to go along with it, then just forget they ever said anything. Like it means nothing.
Right.
That's hard to do. It's a lot easier said than done. But if you're going to criticize somebody, you also need to give some suggestions or be willing to help talk them through whatever it is they're trying to do.
And that's a good point, because I think there's so many people that, I mean, especially if you work online, everybody's got comments, right? Everybody's got comments about what you're doing, but so many of those people, like the reason they're commenting is because they're not doing anything in their own life, right? They're sitting on the couch or they're sitting at their desk or scrolling on their phone, being the keyboard warrior. They're not doing anything. It's almost like it's a jealousy thing. Like I can't get off my butt and do what you're doing, so I'm going to attack what you're doing. And you know what I'm saying? That's almost what I feel sometimes.
I read somewhere recently that you'll never be criticized by people who are doing more than you.
Yes.
So it's only the people who aren't or won't do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Those are the most apt to criticize. Somebody who has done the thing or is doing the thing or is even farther along than you.
Yeah.
They might have maybe a few criticisms, if you want to call it that, but they'll always be constructive with it as well. So, and that's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah.
Margot in the comments said one of her favorite things to say is, "But did you die?" And
I love that.
that's the only failure is if you died, because, well, no, okay, I'll take that back. That is failure. Yes. Is if you died in the process, but the failure is if you don't learn from the process.
Right.
So, you do a thing, it doesn't work. That's simply feedback on what's not working. So just try a different thing or understand that's not the right thing. You haven't failed.
Right.
So, I don't know. All right. So we talked about being brave. Let's go to the being smart side. What to somebody who is that just jump off the cliff type of person and realize that the parachute was a knapsack instead of a parachute. What about those people? How do they learn how to think things through a little better and be a little bit more smart about something?
Oh man. I think something that helps is, and this probably helps for everybody, but I think it's really important to broaden your community and not just hang out with people who are doing all the things that you're doing. I think the more broad and varied your community is, the more examples you're going to have of how people deal with things and how they approach life. And I think that can be super helpful. I mean, if I only hung out with homesteaders who live in Minnesota, who like to get up really early in the morning and have chickens, pigs, and ducks, my world would be very, very small, right? So I think sometimes it's just branching out, and you're going to meet people who are the brave people, and you're going to meet people who are smart, and you're going to see how they handle life, and learn by example, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of times it seems like some of the more brave people, they don't necessarily learn by example really easy. They might see people doing cool stuff, but then they're like, ooh, I want to do that too. And they just go jump in without doing any of the research or looking into any of the things. They just think it would be cool. So they go jump in both feet.
So this is true.
It's good when you have that balance, somebody there to balance you out and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not ride a motorcycle just yet.
Are you attacking me?
Not at all. Actually, I'm just in the process of selling mine, which is kind of sad. But yeah, my wife has some back issues, and she can't ride with me, or at least not very far. And so I have this bike that's sitting there, hardly being used, and somebody that wants it. So it's time for the bike to go, I guess.
It's time.
We have other ways we can spend time together.
Oh, darn it. Anyway.
I know.
I think that does bring up a good point you said about, people who are brave, they just kind of jump in and, maybe the parachute doesn't open because, I think this kind of sort of relates to another way to be smart that I think is on the smart side of the things, is to remember to be teachable. Because I feel like sometimes people just plow forward with ego. Like I've figured out what I want to do and I'm plowing ahead and I'm not taking into consideration anything that anybody is saying. I'm just doing the thing and doing the thing. And I think, we can learn from people who are younger, who are older, who are new to the thing that we are doing, who have been doing the thing we're doing forever. I can't tell you the things, if you take podcasting, for example, there are people who are very new to podcasting who understand things about podcasting that I don't, because I started doing it how long ago and I do it the way that I do it.
Yep.
And the people who are new figure out, no, wait a second, you can do it this way and it's so much easier. So I think there are lots of examples in life about things like that when, we shouldn't just assume people who are new or who are younger don't understand what's going on, because sometimes they have things they can teach us too. So I think being teachable is part of being smart.
Definitely. And I think along with you saying that there are people that know things that you don't know, some of that comes in through the learning process. Like I pretty well grew up on a farm. I mean, we've always had chickens and quail and rabbits and all kinds of animals growing up. So I didn't really have to go through that learning process to actually specifically go seek out certain knowledge. So like you made the conscious choice to go start a homestead and learn all the things. I learned tons of stuff from you about farming and homesteading, and I need to have a chat with you about pigs.
Oh, geez.
We're just getting back into pigs. I haven't had pigs since I was a little kid. So,
funny.
I mean, it's always been, the animals have always been there, but I haven't really had to go seek out the knowledge. And, I think of Tim Cook, who's also in our community. He started a couple years ago, created his handyman business. He had to go learn all the things, and he developed a YouTube channel teaching other people what he was learning. Not to belittle what he's done. He's built an amazing community there.
Yeah.
But I probably know 10 times what he does about construction, but because I've been in it my whole life, I don't know what other people don't know. I don't know how to put out there what people are seeking. So I don't have the same insights that he does to create something. So another little rabbit trail there, but I find that interesting.
Yeah. That's a good point.
When you go seek something out, it gives you more insights into how to teach others.
Mm-hmm.
So really interesting there.
Yeah.
We've talked about kind of the being brave versus being smart. We've pitted them as opposites, but are they really that opposite? And is one more important than the other, or what would you say there?
I don't, unless you could think of it as a coin and brave is one side and, smart is the other side. I would say then, maybe they're opposite, but you need them both. You need the coin, right?
Exactly.
You need the coin to be able to do what you're trying to do. So I think you need both. I think what you gravitate towards is going to depend on the situation. It's going to depend who you are. I think you definitely need both. It would be hard to live in a world and do things if everybody was just brave and never smart. Right. And I think if everybody was just smart all the time, we'd never get anything done, right? We'd all be stuck on the edge of that cliff going, well, I'm going to overthink this 10 more times, and nothing would ever happen. Nobody would ever jump. So.
Yeah. Let me calculate my trajectory one more time. Oh no, the wind changed. I have to calculate again.
Start over. Yes, exactly.
Well, Amy, anything else that you would add to the conversation or say to somebody who is trying to find that balance between just doing the thing and overthinking? Where should somebody start?
I think it's kind of like Margot said, I guess, but did you die?
Right?
I think another question, I guess, that it boils down to is, what's the worst that could happen? Mm-hmm. And I think the answer to that is, well, you could, I suppose. But it's really a question that makes you look at the brave side and the smart side, because depending on the situation, it is the worst that's going to happen. You're going to die. Well, yeah, then let's talk about that. Let's maybe slow down a little bit. But is the worst thing that's going to happen is someone points and laughs at you? That's completely, that's different. So I think what's the worst that could happen is a really good question to ask yourself.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I like that. I probably need to ask myself that more often. What's the worst that can happen? And then just go do it instead of going back to the drawing board for the 27th time.
Right. Exactly.
Amy, this has been a really good conversation and a lot of fun. Where can someone go to find out more about you, to find your content, all your blogs, your podcasts, your YouTube videos, and your books? And is that all the things?
I have a snail mail newsletter also.
And
I guess I forgot to say that. That's right. A monthly
I just got mine like 2 days ago.
Woohoo! Awesome. That's great. You can go to afarmishkindoflife.com and you'll find all the things you need to know about what I'm up to.
Comments. I was laughing. I said, is that goat laughing?
I heard that. I was like, that was perfect timing.
I have goats. They're like 12 feet away out there.
That's
and anytime they see either me or my wife, they think they have to beg for food. They give the piteous little bleats. This has been a lot of fun, Amy. Well, I'll drop those links in the show notes and hopefully we'll do this again.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Y'all have a great day.